Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Telephone Town Hall, hosted by the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo. I'm Jordan Redshaw, and I'll be your moderator again this evening. Thank you for joining us for our 6th Town Hall, and that has seen thousands of residents join us so far. We'll do our best to answer your question. We have staff grouping these questions that come in, and then forwarding questions that are the most asked in the community. A reminder, if you are looking for assistance or information from the Red Cross, you can always call 1-888-350-6070 or visit their Fort McMurray office in the basement of the Hardin Street building, Monday to Friday from 9 to 6 and Saturday from 9 to 5. If you are looking for the recent progress update for the reentry to standing homes in restricted areas, please visit rmwb.ca and click on the wildfire recovery banner at the top of the page to read about the update. Before we begin, if you are on a cell phone and your call gets dropped, you can rejoin by streaming it at rmwb.ca/townhall. I'd like to send things over to Mayor Melissa Blake, who will introduce tonight's participants.
Well, thank you, and good evening, everyone. I hope you had a decent civic holiday on Monday. I know that we missed one meeting in there, and this is number 6. And as we approach meeting number 7, just a forthcoming change for you that I think should bring some optimism and good luck, as 7 sometimes do. We have got participants this evening that include the new chair and vice chair for the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee. The First Lady I'll introduce is Jeanette Bancars, and Jeanette, in fact, will be taking over my spot of providing the introductions to the people who we consider subject matter experts, and hopefully the right people to answer your questions. Alongside her is the Vice Chair, Maggie Farrington, also of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee, and my council members who have been serving since the very beginning, Councillor Keith McGrath and Councillor Alan Vinney. We also have a host of folks from the municipality. You've already met our moderator, Jordan Redshaw, other quiet people in the background taking care of things, but the ones that are prepared to respond to questions tonight from the Regional Emergency Operations Centre, otherwise known as REOC. We have Aaron O'Neill, the Chief of Planning in REOC, and Amanda Hayes of Economic Development. Also joining us are the Red Cross, represented by Melanie Solar, the Insurance Bureau of Canada with Chris Leiden and Rob Dupree. We also have a new participant this evening from SPECS, Andrew Ross, and Alberta Health Services. We have Chris Watkins and Roxanne Drodson. Thank you so much for participating this evening, and I look forward to hearing more in the future under a different chair.
Thank you, Mayor Blake. If you are just joining us, thank you for participating. Remember to press *3 to ask a question, and an operator will take your question, or type your question in the question field online. We will do our best to get you the answers you need. Let's take our first question. This one comes in online from John and Edna, and they live in a Beacon Hill residence and are wondering, can repair be conducted in restricted neighborhoods between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.? So we'll go send this over to Aaron O'Neill, our Chief of Planning.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you for the question. While those areas of Abasand, Beacon Hill, and waterways are restricted from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you can go in and do repairs to your home, cleaning, roof repairs, siding repairs. You can do any repairs to your home that do not require a building permit at this time. If you do need to get building permits, those permits can be issued, but they are restricted for work until the restriction of the Chief Medical Officer of Health is lifted for those areas.
Thank you, Aaron. Our next question, again coming in online until we can, our operators can screen some of the other calls for you and take all your information. Remember, that's press *3 to have an operator, to speak to an operator, and they will take your information for you. Is there anyone, this one's from Stephen, is there anyone from IBC on the ground that I can meet with in person? So I'm going to send this over to Rob Dupree from the Insurance Bureau of Canada.
Hi, thank you, and great question. We do have a representative at the Back to Business Resource Center that's in the Hardin Street building. His name is David Johnson, and he's available in the afternoons between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. You don't need to make an appointment. You can just come in and see him, bring your question, bring your applicable documents, and he will be happy to help you.
Thank you, Rob. Another question from online from Fang. If I decide not to rebuild, can I leave my lot vacant indefinitely? And I'll pass this over to Aaron O'Neill again.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Fang, for your question. If you do decide not to rebuild your house, You can leave the lot vacant. You will be required to backfill the lot to the proper grade so that you're not draining onto other people's properties. But yes, you can, unless there's some restriction in your insurance documents which require you rebuild, you can leave the lot vacant.
Thank you so much, Erin. We're actually going to go to our first telephone call tonight. And Sheila, are you there?
I am.
Thank you, Sheila. Can you please go ahead?
Yep, my question is for Councillor Vinnie. I'm just wondering if there's been any movement with the Canadian Bankers Association with regards to deferring mortgages.
Hey, Sheila, thanks for the question. I'm getting a little impatient with it too, but we don't have a meeting set yet. We're still working on it. Takes some time, I guess, to get these things set up with people from back east and what have you. So, sorry, I'm still working on that.
Thank you, Councillor Vinnie. And we're going to go back to the phones. And Barbara, are you with us?
Yes.
Thank you, Barbara. Please go ahead.
Yeah, actually I have two questions. One is, what's the progress with the cleanup in Beacon Hill?
Okay, thank you, Barbara. I'm going to actually pass that over to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning here.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Barbara, for the question. Demolition permits to date for all of the areas. We have received 1,000 demolition permits as of 5 p.m., and 727 of those have been approved. I don't have the specific numbers for Beacon Hill, but cleanup is underway in Beacon Hill. As you may know, the city did issue a demolition order to all of the properties that have been destroyed, so that cleanup does happen by September 30th. If cleanup has not occurred on those lots by September 30th, the municipality will go in and clean up those lots so that cleanup can be underway and that it will end.
Thank you. My other question is, one of the things I discovered is with my house burning down, but my taxes went up. What's the score on that?
Could you please repeat your question for me?
Went up. My house burned down.
Sorry, Barbara, I'm going to need you're breaking up a little bit on us. Could you please repeat it one more time?
Yes, I was wondering why my taxes have gone up when my house is burned down.
Thank you, Barbara. I'm going to pass this over to Mayor Blake, actually.
Okay.
Hi, Barbara. I'm Mayor Melissa, and first, of course, we're always sorry about the loss that you experienced. The matter of taxation is a bit of a tricky card. In fact, the Recovery Committee has got recommendations that were put on the table with Council to give consideration to, but the assessment values are completely independent. The assessed value is where your property value was in the July period of the year before. So frankly, when you go into the next year tax rate, because you wouldn't have a home this year, you would see that reflected even though you may have rebuilt. So it's a matter of timing, and I apologize that you see the notice that way, but please be assured that the Recovery Committee, in fact, will be looking at recommendations for Council, and at the very worst, the occupancy period that you had in your home would be the only thing that taxes would be probably recovered for. So my apologies for the confusion. That's just a regular process that we have to go through.
Thank you, Mayor Blake. We're going to take an online question now from Megan. And Megan has asked, what is the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee? And I'm going to pass that off to Jeanette Bankars, who is the chair of that committee.
Well, Megan, I'm so glad you asked. I'm trying to justify my job here. I'm just kidding. So one of the learnings we had from Slave Lake was that it would be prudent as a municipality that we established clear and direct focus for recovery that is separate from the actual day-to-day operations that the municipality still needs to conduct. And so we have the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee that is completely devoted, and rightly so, to assist those that are most severely impacted from the wildfire, and we're definitely pleased to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Our next question comes from Tracy. Tracy, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello. My question is for the representative from Specs. So we signed up for the group cleanup, and every time that we contact our insurance provider to find out where things are at, they say that we need to wait another 4 weeks because they haven't received information from Specs. So I'm just wondering if maybe I can get clarification on how the process works with regards to the cleanup that we signed up for, and especially given that you've indicated that by September 30th, if we don't have demo cleaned up, that the municipality will be coming in.
Thank you, Tracy. So Andrew Ross with Specs, I'm going to let you take that one.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you for your question. We've come a long way with updating our website so that residents who are involved with the program can get information that's as up to date and current and accurate as possible. We are also moving forward with doing some direct email communication with those participants that are involved in the program. If you could please email us at fortmcmurray@specs.ca, then we can ensure that you're on that list and ensure that you get whatever answers you need. Also, if you check our website at www.specs.ca, you'll see there's an online schedule and a lot of FAQ answers that may respond to your questions.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Staying on the phones now, we're going to go to Daryl. Daryl, are you with us?
I note that one of the biggest bottlenecks now, I know there's a plan afoot to allow some of us, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, sorry, Daryl, could you just start your question off again for us?
Okay.
Thank you.
So I noticed that for the Green Homes plan, the biggest bottleneck involved seems to be the CMOH. And I'm wondering why this is. I mean, in the time frame it's taken her and the RMWB to formulate this plan, one humorously possibly could have built a space shuttle. I mean, really, how much longer is this going to take?
Thank you, Daryl, for your question. I'm going to pass that on to Erin O'Neill, our Chief of Planning.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Daryl, for your question. I completely understand your frustration by this. We have been working closely with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the Government of Alberta, and Alberta Health Services to get an answer. We are going back and forth to make sure that any risks in those areas have been mitigated so that it is safe for those residents to return. We will be submitting an updated package to the Chief Medical Officer of Health's office this week. Upon her receiving that package, it could take her up to 5 days to review. If she is satisfied with our package and does support the re-entry of that Phase 1 in Abasand and Beacon Hill, 5 to 7 days following that, we will have a re-entry period for those residents. We will communicate that to you as soon as we get the information from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, and we are working very diligently with her office to move forward with those, mitigating all of those risks.
Thank you, Erin. Our next question comes from online, and it's from Sally, and she writes, I've signed up for Specs, but don't have confirmation of the final cost. Can someone speak to this? I'm going to send this to Andrew Ross from Specs.
I thank you very much for your question. We address the costs on our website, and I think that's the best place to see it. I could detail it here, but it would take a little while, and I think it would also be tough to follow. It's all in writing at www.specs.ca. So I think that is the best place for you to check for that. In addition, if you have any further questions on that aren't addressed by the FAQ, please email us at fortmcmurray@specs.ca, and we'll respond to all the questions that you have.
Thank you, Andrew. Back to the phones with Larry. Larry, are you with us?
Yeah, hello there.
Hi, Larry. Go ahead.
Question is, we lost our home in Abasand there, and we were just wondering, we appreciate the temporary RV park that you got here for us, and we went and bought a brand new trailer here with our insurance money. And now, but we're getting the boot here out of here at the end of September, and I didn't know. I thought that since we spent all the money that from the insurance money, that this was going to be lasting a little longer than it has been. So now we're going to be just out of here at the end of September. So we're going to be like gypsies again on the run. Got to find a place to put this brand new trailer. And from Abisan, that Hillview Corporation, we're still paying condo fees and mortgages. And so there's been no relief from them. And we're on the run again here. So I don't know what we're going to do now at the end of September. We got to start looking for a place now. And we just don't know what to do here.
Thank you, Larry. That's actually a two-part question. So we're going to start off with Aaron O'Neill to talk about the RVs, and then we're going to send it over to Chris Lydon with the IBC.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Larry, for your question. I'm very sorry to hear that you lost your house. We have advised the individuals living in Abrams Landing that area is closing September 30th. There is another option available for your RV park, and it is the Lewick Park Campground. The number for the Lewick Park Campground is 780-791-2267, and they do have fully serviced sites. It is a little bit north of town, but they do have those fully serviced sites that are available to you.
Thank you, Aaron. And to answer the condo fees component of that, I'm going to send that to Chris Lydon.
Yeah, and thank you, Larry. It's a terrible circumstance. The condo fees and mortgage payments for those to whom it applies are, more often than not, and it's tough for us to kind of answer a specific question generally, but to give you the general answer, those fees and costs are typically outside of the scope of insurance, as you likely know from talking to your insurance representative. I do, however, encourage you to ask those very specific questions of your insurance adjuster and your insurance representative, because there may be some modest allowances inside your policy, as there are in some policies, to help with that. If you've got any other questions on this or on any other items related to your claim and you're kind of not getting satisfaction out of your company, or you just want a little clarification on how to approach your company even, I encourage you to reach out to us at 1-844-2-ASK-IBC or email us at fortmacfire@ibc.ca. And good luck, Larry.
Jordan, it's Melanie from the Red Cross. If I may add something here?
By all means, Melanie, please go ahead.
Hi, Larry. I'm sorry for your loss, but I do want to indicate that at the Canadian Red Cross, we are open and eager to assisting homeowners who are underinsured or who have gaps in their insurance coverage or who have emerging needs as a result of the event. We do have a housing-specific assistance line outside of our regular appointment booking system. So if you have any financial needs specific in regards to housing challenges, I encourage you to call a 1-800 number for a confidential over-the-phone quick assessment at 1-888-553-5505, and we can see if there's some support we can provide to you and your family.
Thank you, Melanie. We're going to go back online real quickly here, and this one's going to go from Sandra, and she says, I live in Waterways. How am I supposed to remove my foundation if I'm not allowed to put a shovel in the ground? And I'm going to send this to Aaron O'Neill, our Chief of Planning.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Sandra, for your question. You can remove after you have your demolition permit, you can remove the ash and debris that's on your property. You can also remove your foundation and backfill your property. If you choose not to backfill your property, the current demolition order that's in place does allow you to, with the proper safety measures in place, leave the foundation in and then replace your foundation in June. Now, I understand currently, given the requirements of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, you cannot put your foundation back in at this point, but we are working diligently with that office to be able to have some relief for those residents so that you can get into that rebuild phase. So we will communicate that to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Aaron. And just a reminder, if you're joining us by phone tonight, to ask a question, press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to the operator. If you are joining us online, please type your question into the question field. We're going to go back to the phones and go to Drew. Drew, are you with us?
Hello.
Hi, Drew, please go right ahead.
Just a question. For the mitigating steps for re-entry back into Beacon Hill, if that gets accepted, what's going to make it safe? Like, what controls are you guys putting in place to make it safe for me to bring back my children, my 8-month-old and my 3-year-old? Our house is still fine. Well, it's still standing anyway. So just want to know what's going to make it safe for us to go back.
Thank you, Drew. I'm going to send that over to Erin O'Neill once again.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Drew, for your question. We have put a number of mitigation steps in place in Beacon Hill, Abasand, and waterways. Specifically for families with small children, we have ensured that there are designated demolition haul routes that are 30 kilometers an hour. We have also, as part of our demolition handbook and package in the permitting package, it requires that the ash and soil is wet down so there is not ash and dust flying in the air. We are looking at putting in place a regular street cleaning schedule, so that is available. And we do have regular roaming security in the area, as well as RCMP and municipal law enforcement, to make sure those speeds are enforced and that children are safe in the area. So there are a number of mitigation steps. We have put additional fencing in some areas, and we have also put additional layer of tackifier on some of the properties that are backing onto standing homes, just to make sure there's some additional mitigation in there. We do have a whole package that we are submitting that has additional details in it, and we will put out all the mitigation steps as well as that reentry information once we have it available.
Thank you, Erin. We're going to stay on the phones, and we're going to go to Adam. Are you with us?
Yes, hello.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam, for calling in. Please go ahead with your question.
My question is, housing market right now in Fort McMurray is at a low. The rebuild costs after the fire is astronomically high, making it much more profitable and better to take a buyout and leave a hole in the ground or refill your land and not build anything back there and buy a piece of property that's already standing in Fort McMurray. I owned a house over on Prospect Drive. It was a duplex. Where does that leave my neighbor? The land that is there right now, it's not really wide enough to build a single-family home. So in order for him to rebuild his home, would somebody have to buy my land and put a duplex there, or how is that going to work?
Thank you, Adam. And we're going to send that over to Rob Dupree with the IBC.
Hi, Adam. First off, I'm very sorry that you've had damage over to your property and that you've suffered a loss. We are here to help. And in relation to your duplex question, it sounds like you own half the duplex, so you do have some obligations with your duplex to be talking with your neighbor to decide on the rebuild or not. You do have, under your insurance policy, if you do have a replacement cost endorsement, you would have the option of accepting an actual cash value, so that would be the depreciated cost. Now, having said that, that's from the insurance standpoint. You would also have some obligations in relation to your title because you do share common walls with your person that's on the other side of that particular building. So I encourage you to not only talk with your insurance company, but also talk with your neighbor as well, to come up with a collective solution so that you can be moving forward with your claim. If you do have any further questions about insurance, I'll remind everyone we do have a consumer information center that can help answer questions in relation to insurance, and that phone number is 1-84-40-ASK-IBC.
We're sorry for the sound, folks. We're just having a bit of a technical... We're going to go back to the phone. Sorry about that. We're going to go to Don. Don, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'd like to say good evening to everybody, and I want to say send out a big shout out to everybody that worked so hard to save Fort McMurray in general. I don't think enough has really been said about the oil companies stepping up and helping out in a big way. So a big shout out to them. But my question is, I would like to know how much money has been raised through the nonprofit organizations and has the government matched? And the final portion to the question is, is 100% of that money going to be used for the residents in Fort McMurray?
Obligations that you have with your title for your duplex. You do have obligations to be working with your neighbor in relation to a duplex. If you're unable to come to some type of an agreement, you may have to proceed to the next steps, which could include talking to a lawyer in relation to your options that you may have. Within your actual insurance policy, if you do have replacement cost type policy, you do have the option to rebuild. The challenge becomes.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Phil, for your question. The council, Regional Municipality Wood Buffalo Council, has waived the tipping fees for residential waste until October 31st, 2016. So you can take all your residential waste there free of charge.
Thank you, Erin. And we're going to go to the phones to Sarah. Sarah, are you with us?
Yes, I am. I'd heard that demolition was halted due to some safety concerns in Stone Creek, and I just wanted to know what was being done to ensure that demolition continues safely as far as, the ash and debris coming into the air, and if anyone can elaborate a bit more on what happened.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I'm going to pass this to Erin O'Neill.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Sarah, for your question. Yes, last week there were some contractors working in Stone Creek who were not wetting down their properties. As such, our development compliance officers went out and they did issue a stop order against those properties, so the work had to stop until the proper mitigation requirements and the requirements that are specified in the individual's development permit or demolition permit, were in place. The next day, that contractor did have a water truck on site to ensure that they are wetting down the property and they were able to start work again. In terms of what are we doing to monitor this, we do have our development compliance officers out in the field. We also have our safety codes officers out in the field and field inspectors, as well as occupational health and safety inspectors out in the field monitoring this. They are reporting back in or stopping the contractors on the site. Any complaints of this nature can be directed to our Pulse line at 780-743-7000, and we will have our inspectors out on site looking into these and issuing those stop orders if the contractors are not properly following the conditions of their permit.
Thank you, Erin. Our next question is coming online from Courtney, and they lost their home in Wood Buffalo but have heard rumors that they can't rebuild until the whole area is cleared. Is this true? And this one, again, is going to go back to Erin.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Courtney, for your question. And I'm very sorry to hear that you did lose your home. In Wood Buffalo, there is no restriction. Once you have completed your demolition and have your demolition inspection, you can apply for your development and building permits. Subject to the regulations of the land use bylaw, you can rebuild your property. There is no reason why you can't apply for those permits now and start the rebuild if your demolition has been complete. So if you just want to check with Planning and Development at 309 Powder Drive, Kimberley, they can help you with all those permitting needs.
Thanks, Rob. And just a reminder that if you have a question, please press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to the operator. If you are joining us online, please type your question in the question field. And I'm going to try and get Melanie back on the line. Melanie, are you still with us? Perfect. Melanie, can you go back to Don's question that he asked earlier regarding how much money has been raised by the Red Cross and the other nonprofits, potentially, if you have that information, and where that money is going to be going?
I would love to. Thank you so much for coming back to that. Don, I hope you're still on the line. We did make an announcement this week indicating that the Canadian Red Cross has received $165 million from donations to date, and the Government of Canada has announced that they will match those funds to the sum of $104 million, and that the Government of Alberta would match those funds to the sum of $30 million. Making the Canadian Red Cross grand total of $299 million. I do not have any information on fundraising endeavors from other not-for-profit organizations, but what I can say is that we are actively working to use that funding to support agencies, organizations, charitable organizations, community stakeholder organizations local to Fort McMurray so that they can also access those funds that we have been allowed to steward, and we look forward to working together with those partners.
Thank you so much, Melanie, and sorry, John, that we had those troubles there connecting, but I hope that answers your question. Our next question comes in online from Mark, and he has asked, when will we get access to homes that are still standing? And I'm going to send this over to Erin O'Neill.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Mark, for your question. We are working on a Phase 1 reentry plan in Abasand and Beacon Hill for some standing homes in those areas. We're working closely with the Chief Medical Officer of Health, the Government of Alberta, and Alberta Health Services about allowing re-entry into a phased portion of those areas. We will be submitting a package to the Chief Medical Officer of Health this week. She will take up to 5 days to review that document. If she supports the re-entry document 5 to 7 days following her review of the document, there will be a re-entry period. So we're just working closely with that office to have that restriction lifted in those areas.
Thank you, Erin. We're going to go back to the phones to Dave. Dave, are you with us?
Yeah, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I had a question about, two questions actually. One about green space redevelopment. I live up in Eagle Ridge, and of course they doze behind our homes. And I want to try to understand if we're going to be, we keep talking about making, improving or at least getting back to where we were. And I just want to ensure that they don't just end up seeding our area. We want, as a community group, we've talked, and we really want to make sure that we have an equivalent level of privacy, because before we had trees right up to our back door. I'm just wondering if there's a plan in place to make that happen.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I'm going to send that to Erin O'Neill.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Dave, for your question. Some of those areas were used as a fire break, and some of those areas are part of our Fire Smart program. I do not have all the details on our Fire Smart program, but I do have your number here, and I will take it, and I will make sure somebody from our Fire Smart team or our Parks team gives you a call back tomorrow.
Thanks, Erin. And Dave, I understand you have a second part to that question.
Uninsured.
Sorry, can you...
So I'm just Sorry?
Can you please repeat your question?
Sure. Unfortunately, my in-laws had a home in Beacon Hill that was lost, and they were uninsured. We've looked into it a little, and uninsured homeowners in both Slave Lake and Kelowna had access to government money to help with the rebuild costs. So far, we've been told that that's not available here, and we've talked with the Red Cross, and rebuild money is not available from the Red Cross. So I'm wondering if any of that federal money that had just come in has been earmarked for uninsured homeowners that have lost their home.
Okay, thanks. And I'm actually going to go back to Erin O'Neill with that.
Thank you, Dave, for your question. In the absence of the Red Cross being able to help, and I'd leave that up to the Red Cross, but there are, I understand, some NGOs or non-governmental organizations looking to help people. They are being mobilized as we speak, so representatives specifically from Samaritan's Purse are looking at helping some of those uninsured individuals. So they are working on coming back to town and getting up to speed so they can help those uninsured individuals. I don't have any specific details on that right now, but there is some progress in place so that those uninsured individuals can be assisted.
Thank you, Erin. We're going to go online now. And Tim has asked, how come Wood Buffalo can rebuild as soon as their property is clean, but we have to wait until our property all of Beacon Hill is clean? I'm going to go to Erin O'Neill.
Thank you for that question. Before re-entry on June 1st, the Chief Medical Officer of Health did put restrictions on the area of Abasand, Beacon Hill, and waterways until the area was clean from debris. This was done before the testing was completed, fencing was up, or tackifier, so we are working on some of those mitigation measures. But until the restriction is lifted in those areas, individuals can apply for their development and building permits, however, and they can be issued. However, there is a condition that you cannot essentially put a shovel in the ground until that restriction is lifted. We are working closely on those restrictions with the Chief Medical Officer of Health so that individuals can rebuild as soon as possible.
Thanks, Erin. And we're going to go back to the phones. Arthur, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Please go ahead with your question.
I'm wondering if you guys have any funds for a daycare that has to be relocated into a basement of a church, because they're a nonprofit organization, and so are we, but they're having a hard time getting funding to build the church to their expectations.
Okay, thank you, Arthur. I'm going to send this to Melanie at the Red Cross.
Thank you so much. Absolutely, we would be very interested in speaking with both not-for-profit organizations and working to support daycares and other aspects that will help families come back to Fort McMurray and get back to work in Fort McMurray is absolutely critical. So on the website, we have just launched a new online portal with all the information, and it's at redcross.ca/community partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Our next caller is Leonie. Leonie, can you please go ahead?
Yes, I'm one of the people that are... Hello?
Hello. Please go ahead with your question.
Okay, yes. I'm one of the families that's here in the Abraham Landing and with the eviction notice. And then we went to that meeting today, and many of the town council have suggested going to Red Cross. I don't know if you guys are aware, but the soonest meeting or appointment you can get is September 22nd. Like, that seems, sorry about that, an awful long wait for emergency help. It's not even this month.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to send that to Melanie Soler.
Hi, thanks for your question, and you're absolutely correct. We are booking into the month of September right now for our client assessments. However, in order to address urgent unmet needs, we have two other routes for folks to come through. We do block book emergency appointments every day. So if you were to arrive in the office at our Hardin Street location, we do reserve a certain number of spots every day for what we call walk-in clients for urgent needs. And second to that, we have established remote call centers where caseworkers over the phone can do rapid assessments in regards to housing needs. And again, that phone number for the housing appointments are 1-888-553-5505. And we continue to try to increase our capacity locally so that we can add more caseworkers and address more clients every day.
Thank you, Melanie. We're going to stay on the phones and go to Andrea. Andrea, are you with us?
Hello. Hello. My question is regarding the standing homes. Mine happens to be in Beacon Hill. We are still displaced. We're in BC. We have a small child. We have two large dogs. Our insurance will not approve a 6-month lease for us at this time because of the September 30th date. Our house needs a lot of work. It was flooded once the water was turned back on. That first weekend that we were allowed to go back home to assess our properties. So we have a lot of work to do, and we can't go home. And I don't know, we can't find temporary housing, and I would just love to know if there's ever a plan to bring in something for people who cannot find a place to rent.
Thank you, Andrea. I'm going to send that to Rob Dupree with the IBC.
Hey, Andrea. I'm very sorry for your loss. of your home and the damage to your home. It sounds like not only did you have some potential smoke damage, but you also had some water damage there as well. So the section of your policy that deals with this is the additional living expense. With the additional living expense, while you're out of your home, if your house is not habitable, then they would be able to provide funding to find some type of alternate suitable accommodations. If your home does have significant damage, if someone's been in there to assess the damage and you're going to be out of the home for a long period of time, and if you're saying 6 months, if your home will take 6 months to be properly remediated so it can be livable again, that's a conversation that you need to have with your insurance adjuster. They will be able to work with you if you explain the circumstances and if they've seen the actual damage in the house. They should be able to provide a general timeline of when the repairs may be able to start and when the repairs may be completed in the house. If you continue to have additional challenges, we do have consumer information officers that can facilitate conversations between your insurance company and you to try to help them understand and explain the situation with your specific circumstances. Those consumer information officers can be reached at 1-8442-ASK-IBC, and they are there to help you in your time of need.
Thank you, Rob. I'm actually also going to pass it over to Erin O'Neill.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Andrea, for your question. Council, through our mayor, has put in a request to the Government of Alberta to bring up 100 temporary housing units. We are working with the Red Cross and the Government of Alberta on a survey through our Pulse line to understand the demand for those housing units. If you have not completed the survey, you can phone our Pulse line at 780-743-7000 and complete that survey so we have a complete understanding of the housing needs. We are working to find available spots for those interim housing, and we are working closely with the government to bring those up. The request that we originally put in was for 3 to 4 bedroom pet-friendly accommodations. So we do want to make sure that we have been able to meet the needs for that interim housing, and we are working closely with the government to have that interim housing available.
Thank you, Erin. And just a reminder that if you're joining us by phone, you can press *3 on your phone's keypad and give your question to the operator, or if you're joining us online, please type your question into the question field. Our next question comes from Tracy, and she has asked, when will the turnaround times for demolition permits be announced? I'm actually going to pass that to Erin O'Neill, who will give you a brief update.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you for your question. Planning and Development is working on a 48-hour turnaround time. They were very successful this weekend in getting over the hump, per se, and of the 1,000 demolition permits that have been received by 5 p.m. tonight, 727 of those have been approved.
Thank you, Erin. We're going to go back to the phones now to Sandra. Sandra, are you with us?
Yes, my house is on Beacon Hill, and we got quite a bit of smoke damage in there. But tonight, my husband went over to check on the house, and we had about 3 feet of water in there from the flood. So when can we get in there to clean that mess up in the basement? Do we have to wait until we're allowed to go in there again, or what do I do?
Thank you, Sandra. I'm going to point that over to Rob Dupree with the Insurance Bureau of Canada.
Hi, Sandra, and I'm very sorry that not only have you gone through the initial incident, but now you have water in your basement as well. I'm very sorry to hear about that. You can have someone go in right now. There is a process of accessing the restricted areas. If you have and talk to your insurance company, they can send someone out to assess the damages. They can assess it, and if it does need some repair work, they can be starting on the repairs right away. So they will be able to help you out. Have a conversation with your adjuster, let them know what's happening, and start getting the process moving so that you can get your house back in order.
Thank you, Rob, and actually Erin's got a follow-up to that as well.
Thank you, Jordan. I just wanted to let you know, for those areas of Abyssal, Beacon Hill, waterways, if you have any damage to your homes, you can be going in and repairing those that damage to those standing homes between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Roof repairs, flooring repairs, cleaning units, siding, those types of things. If you require a building permit, those are where the restrictions come into place. But if you don't require to do anything structural or anything that requires a building permit, you can be going in and doing that cleanup between those hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you, Erin. We're going to stay with the phones for a moment, and I'm going to go to Lauren. Lauren, are you with us?
Recovery can answer for me.
Sorry, Lauren,
the first one.
Question for us?
Oh, yes, for sure. I have a couple questions regarding timelines that I'm hoping somebody from the recovery committee can address for me. The first one is Councillor McGrath put forward a motion to council a couple of weeks ago in order to reduce taxes for those of us who have partial damage to our home or complete loss to our homes, and I haven't seen that come back up in council, and I'm wondering if that's going to be addressed soon, because my tax is pretty hefty too when I got that notice last week. And then the second one is timeline question with regards to when somebody is going to address the caveats on the patio homes in Abasand, because I'm affected by that and I can't start to plan my rebuild until something's done about it.
Thank you, Lauren. So for the first part of your question, I'm going to go to Councillor McGrath. Councillor McGrath, are you there?
Yes. To answer that, that's going to be discussed at the recovery committee. There'll be a recommendation coming back to council, and that will be within the next. I'm hopeful that it will be in the next 2 to 3 weeks to address the first part of that question.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath, and I'm going to send this to Erin O'Neill for the other part of the question regarding the patio homes.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Lauren, for the question. Lauren, without knowing the specific caveat on your property, I can't specifically respond to it. However, I do have your number, and we will take it, and I will have somebody from Planning and Development give you a call back tomorrow.
I spoke to them today, and they said that Planning and Development can't do anything, that it has to be done by the Fire Recovery Committee, which is why I was hoping that somebody there could address it.
Thank you, Lauren. We will address the issue with the Recovery Committee and talk about, typically Planning and Development does not review caveats on title, but to get the specific details to give you a firm answer, we will get those details. So we may need to give you a call just to get your specific caveat so we can review it. So you may hear from myself or Planning and Development tomorrow.
Thank you, Erin. And we're going to go back to the phones for one last call from Tim. Tim, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Tim Lewick at the Lewick Park Campground. We heard rumor that social housing may require 1 to 2 bedroom housing units. We have currently 100 units that are sitting vacant on our property and potentially could be used. And if the government is going to be requiring them, who do we contact that would let us know before we do remove these units, because they are set up and ready to go for any people that require them?
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to send that to Erin O'Neill.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Tim. We are working on getting these survey results so we can determine the demand for those housing units. We will communicate about the 1 and 2 bedroom units at the Lewick Park Campground for those residents, and we hope to have those results of the Red Cross survey shortly. What we have been seeing and what we've been hearing is a demand for 3 to 4 bedroom pet-friendly units, but not to say that many people don't need those 1 and 2 bedroom units as well. So for everyone on the phone, there are some units available at Lewick Park Campground. Phone number 780-791-2267.
Thank you, Erin. And we're going to go to our last question of the evening. And this one is, again, going to go back to Erin, but it's coming online from Suzanne, and she wants to know, when will we know about flood abatement rules for rebuilding in waterways? Erin O'Neill.
Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Suzanne, for that question. The Deputy Chief Administrative Officer did present to Council, I believe, last week or the week before on a number of flood mitigation measures. He is working directly with the Government of Alberta to determine what needs to be done in waterways for that flood mitigation, and we will communicate that out to everyone as soon as possible.
Thank you, Erin. Before we close out tonight, I'd like to ask Mayor Blake to make some closing remarks.
Well, thank you. Certainly to all of the folks that joined us online for the Telephone Town Hall and those who were able to get through with their questions in person. These are excellent venues for being able to provide additional information. Always, we encourage you to go directly to the source of the best information, but in between, these are things that we hope will help give direction to folks who need it. As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, we were joined by a number of subject matter experts. We thank each of them for their time this evening. And as we go forward next week, we will be relinquishing the chair to our chairperson of the Wood Buffalo Recovery Committee. Again, her name is Jeanette Van Cars, and I'm pretty excited to see what will come from the new committee. Tomorrow night's council meeting will hopefully be approving the recovery team lead, who is the basically like a CAO who will be involved in the recovery operations. So I'm hopeful that as more of these meetings begin to occur with the recovery committee and we get more of these questions answered for you, we will all get closer to getting you home. So to each and every one of you, thank you for your patience and your perseverance. Together we will stay safe, resilient, and together.
Thank you, Mayor Blake, and thank you to the thousands of us that joined us this evening, and thank you for your questions. The full audio replay will be available soon at rmwb.ca/townhall. We do recognize that not everyone's question was answered tonight, and we thank you for understanding as we do our best to answer similar questions that have been submitted the most throughout the call. We invite you to visit rmwb.ca, call Pulse at 780-743-7000, or to interact with us on Facebook or Twitter to connect with the regional municipality. The next Telephone Town Hall is Monday, August 15th at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Have a good evening as we stay safe, resilient, and together as a community. Thank you.